There is a woman listening to me right now and she is grieving. Not the kind of grief that comes with sudden loss, but the deep soul aching grief that comes from watching someone walk away. You invested, you loved, you showed up, you gave more of yourself than you had to give, and yet he left. And now you are left asking why. You are left wondering what you did wrong. You are left carrying the weight of his absence like it is evidence of your unworthiness. I want to speak to you about something that may reshape how you understand his departure. Not to minimize your pain, but to honor the woman underneath the pain who needs to know the truth. The truth is, he did not leave because you were not enough. He left because God saw something you could not see. He left because God is protecting you. I know this does not feel like protection right now. Protection does not feel like abandonment. Protection does not feel like rejection. Protection does not feel like being left alone in the wreckage of what you thought was building into something. But what if I told you that God sometimes removes people from our lives, not because we are lacking, but because they are? What if his departure was not a statement about your worth, but a statement about his capacity? There is a particular kind of pain that comes with being left. It is the pain of the woman who loved harder than she was loved. It is the pain of the woman who showed up more than she was shown up for. It is the pain of the woman who gave the best version of herself to someone who could not even recognize what they were receiving. And so you are left here wondering if you should have been different, if you should have been less, if you should have been more, if you should have been anything other than who you are. But here is what I want you to know. His inability to stay says nothing about your lovability. His choice to leave says nothing about your value. His departure says everything about his character, his capacity, his readiness, and his alignment. And God, in his infinite wisdom, saw what you could not see. God saw the end from the beginning, and God removed him before he could damage you further. Let me speak to the woman who is blaming herself. You have been going through the relationship like it is a crime scene, trying to find what you did wrong. You have been replaying conversations, analyzing words, wondering if you could have said something different, done something different, been someone different. And in doing all of that, you are actually honoring a lie. You are honoring the idea that his departure is your fault, but it is not. And accepting this is the beginning of your healing. Sometimes a person leaves because they are not the person you thought they were. Sometimes they leave because their character does not match the image you created. Sometimes they leave because they are not ready. Sometimes they leave because they are not capable. Sometimes they leave because they are running from something in themselves and they mistake it for running towards something else. But rarely, if ever, does a good man leave a good woman who loved him well. Rarely does a person of integrity and maturity abandon someone who showed up with her whole heart. When a man leaves, it is often because he is not the man you needed him to be. And God, who loves you more than that man ever could, made the decision to remove him. There is a loneliness that comes after someone leaves. It is not just the loneliness of missing a person. It is the loneliness of grieving a future you thought you were building. It is the loneliness of mourning a dream that will never happen the way you imagined it. It is the loneliness of realizing that someone you trusted with your heart could not be trusted to stay. And in that loneliness, you may be tempted to call him. You may be tempted to reach out. You may be tempted to explain yourself, to make yourself smaller, to become whatever version of yourself you think he needs so that he will come back. Do not do this. Because calling him back into your life is calling back the man who God removed. And God does not remove people from our lives for arbitrary reasons. God removes them because he sees what they will do to us if they stay. Let me speak to the cost of holding on to someone who has left. When you hold on to someone that God has removed, you accomplish several things, none of them good. First, you delay your own healing. You cannot grieve what you are still trying to hold on to. You cannot move forward when you are looking backward. You cannot receive what God is trying to give you because your hands are full of someone who does not want to be held. Second, you dishonor God's protection. You are essentially saying to God, I know better than you what I need. I know better than you what is good for me. I will override your wisdom with my emotion, but God's wisdom is always better than your emotion. God's sight is always clearer than your hope. Third, you open the door to cycles. If you will not release someone who was meant to teach you through their departure, you will attract similar people in the future. You will have the same conversations with different faces. You will repeat the same patterns until finally you get the lesson. And the lesson is this: you are worthy of someone who will not leave you. You are worthy of someone who will choose you over and over and over again. But when you release someone that God has removed, when you surrender the relationship to his wisdom, when you trust that his decision is better than your preference, something shifts in your spirit. You become available for what comes next. You become open to the healing that was waiting on the other side of that departure. Let me give you a principle that will help you understand this. God does not remove people from our lives to leave us empty. God removes them to make room for something better. God does not close a door without opening another. God does not take away without intending to give back more. Think about it like this. Imagine you are holding a handful of sand. Your hand is completely full. Every grain is accounted for. Your fist is clenched so tightly that nothing else can come in. But God has something precious he wants to put in your hand. He has something valuable, something real, something true that he wants to give you. But he cannot give it to you while you are holding sand. So he has to ask you to open your hand. He has to ask you to let the sand go. Your person was sand. He looked like something in your clenched fist. He felt like something real, but he was not what you needed. And God, who knows what you really need, asked you to let him go. And now, with your hand open, with your grip released, God can give you something real. God can give you someone who will not slip through your fingers. But you have to let the sand go first. You have to open your hand. You have to release what you are holding so that you can receive what God is offering. There is a woman reading this who is caught in the cycle of hope and disappointment. You let him go and then he comes back. You pull away and then he pulls you back in. You decide it is over and then he says something that makes you believe it can work. And so you open your hands again. You pick up the sand again. And God is standing there waiting for you to let it go so he can give you something real. I want to speak to the woman who is waiting for him to change. You are holding on to the idea that if you wait long enough, if you love hard enough, if you pray strong enough, he will become the man you need him to be. But this is not how transformation works. Transformation happens when a person decides to transform, and you cannot make that decision for him. You cannot will it into existence. You cannot love him into being different. What you can do is release him. What you can do is pray for him from a distance. What you can do is trust that God is working on him. But that does not mean God is working on him for you. Maybe God is working on him so he can be better for his future. Maybe God is working on him so he can be healed. Maybe God is working on him so he can stop hurting people. But that work is not your responsibility. And waiting for him to do it is not your calling. Your calling is to heal. Your calling is to grow. Your calling is to become the woman God designed you to be. Your calling is to stop organizing your life around the hope that you will change and start organizing your life around the certainty that you will. Let me speak to the pain of being left by someone you love. This pain is real. I do not want to minimize it, but I want to reframe it. What if the pain is not evidence that you made a mistake in loving him? What if the pain is evidence that you loved someone who did not deserve your love? What if the pain is not a sign of failure, but a sign that you have a capacity to love that is greater than his capacity to receive? That is not weakness, that is strength. That is a beautiful capacity that will serve you well when you meet someone who can match it. That is a gift that will be received and cherished when you meet someone worthy of it. But right now, that gift was wasted on someone who could not see what he had. And that is not your fault. It is just a tragedy. Some tragedies happen. Some people leave. Some people do not recognize gold when it is in their hands. Some people choose to walk away from the best thing that ever happened to them, and that says everything about them and nothing about you. I want to speak to the woman who is blaming God. You are angry. You are asking why God would let this happen, why God would let you fall in love with someone who would leave, why God would let you build dreams that are now crumbling, why God would allow this pain. But what if God was protecting you the entire time? What if God allowed you to fall in love so you could discover your capacity to love? What if God allowed you to dream so you could discover that you are worthy of dreams? What if God allowed this relationship so you could discover what you will not tolerate in the future? What if every moment with him was a classroom and now you are graduating? What if the pain you are feeling is not punishment but education? What if God is not against you but for you? What if God is not punishing you but protecting you? This is hard to see when you are in the middle of the pain. But God's protection often looks like absence. God's care often feels like loss. God's wisdom often contradicts our hope. And we have to trust God even when we do not understand him. Let me speak to the woman who is staying too long in the grief. Grief is necessary. Tears are necessary. Anger is necessary. But there is a time when grief becomes an identity. There is a time when mourning becomes a way of life. There is a time when the loss becomes the organizing principle of your existence. And that time is not now. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to feel the full weight of what you have lost. But you are not allowed to stay there. You are not allowed to build your entire life around the memory of someone who chose to leave. You are not allowed to become a monument to his departure. There is life on the other side of this. There is healing. There is joy. There is the woman you are becoming, and she's beautiful. She's wiser because of what she learned. She is stronger because of what she survived. She is clearer because of what she released. And she's waiting for you to stop looking backward and start looking forward to her. The woman who does not wait for him to come back is the woman who is free. The woman who does not check her phone hoping for a message is the woman who can receive new messages. The woman who does not organize her healing around the possibility of reconciliation is the woman who can actually heal. And healing looks like this. It looks like days when you do not think about him. It looks like moments when you laugh and realize you forgot about the pain. It looks like waking up and remembering that you have a life that does not depend on his presence. It looks like recognizing that you are okay, that you are going to be okay, that you were okay before him and you are okay without him. There is a particular strength that comes when you finally accept that he is gone and you are still here. You did not disappear with him. You did not evaporate when he walked away. You are still standing. You are still breathing. You are still a person of value and worth, with or without his acknowledgement. And that is when God's protection becomes clear. That is when you understand that his living was a mercy. That is when you see that God was not punishing you. God was making space for you to become yourself again. God was removing the obstacles so you could see clearly. God was protecting you from a future that looked good but would have slowly eroded who you are. Let me speak to what comes next. There is a woman who will not make the same mistakes. There is a woman who will recognize red flags instead of ignoring them. There is a woman who will have standards and will not lower them. There is a woman who will love again, but she will love differently. She will love with wisdom. She will love with boundaries. She will love with the full knowledge of what she will and will not accept. That woman is you. That is who you are becoming. And that woman is beautiful because she has learned what it costs to be careless with her heart. That woman is powerful because she knows the difference between love and desperation. That woman is wise because she knows that love is not enough if respect is not there. Love is not enough if consistency is not there. Love is not enough if someone is not willing to show up. So let him go. Let him be whoever he is going to be. Let him learn his lesson somewhere else. Let him figure out what he lost in his own time, but do not wait around for him to do it. Do not organize your life around the hope that you will have an awakening. Do not put your dreams on hold because he is still figuring things out. Your job is not to fix him. Your job is not to wait for him. Your job is not to be available if he decides to come back. Your job is to heal. Your job is to grow. Your job is to become the woman you are meant to be, with or without him. And when you finally do that, when you finally let him go completely, when you finally accept that God was protecting you by removing him, that is when real freedom comes. That is when you can breathe again. That is when you can smile without it being a mask. That is when you can live your life for you, not in spite of him or because of him or in hopes of him, but for you. He left you because God is protecting you. That is the truth. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you can move into the life God has been preparing for you all along.